So to start off the story, I was a drug dealer, I was a heroin addict. Spent about 7 years in the streets, slept outside for the majority. Being homeless in Oregon is a scary thing. You never know where you're gonna sleep at night, who you're gonna run into that you have to fight for a bush, whether you're gonna have to sleep with a weapon and stay up all night because of what you hear outside, or getting up in the morning and never know if you're gonna take a shower or if you have to jump in the river to clean up, or if there's gonna be, a police officer that comes and escorts you off the property and you have to go find somewhere else to be at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's definitely not easy, and it's survival of the fittest in the wild is pretty much the only way I can describe it. I mean, at the really root of the whole thing, I was angry and I was hurt. I suffered a lot of emotional and physical abuse as a young child, and it played a lot of effect in the anger and where it came from, and that just spooled over into my whole life. I hated everything, and so through that, it really led me to destruction of pretty much my whole life. Came down to a moment when I finally realized, I was like, I have no control, like none. I need it to function, to get up in the morning, to even put a smile on my face, to even feel slightly like I was doing anything in life that mattered. I had to get high first. Otherwise, I was just a depressed wreck. It really took one moment. It was when I OD'd for the first time. When that happened, I woke up in a hospital bed shortly thereafter, sick. I was down to like 100 pounds. It's pretty bad. I mean, I originally started out using heroin at like 225. She's like, what about the mission? I'm like, oh, you're kidding me. The mission? I was like, really? I don't know about that place. I've been walking by it forever and never once thought about it. I've been doing it on my own for days. I was a little proud. And eventually she convinced me. So I called and talked to one of the RAs at the desk at the time, and he told me a lot about the place and just kind of gave me a little rundown of how things went. And so I was like, well, I ain't got nothing to lose. I might as well go check it out. I mean, at this point, I ain't got nowhere to go. I ain't got nobody to turn to, and I'm really not going back out into the streets. I refused. I'm like, there's no way I'm sleeping out in the cold ever again. I refuse to choose that life any longer. It really hit me what the mission was like when I sat down the next day and had a conversation with Brian. After the talk we had and just sharing him my life story with him, I really understood the expectation, and I really understood that he may have not known me, but he had a heart for what I was going through. And that to me just opened a lot of doors. I was like, I didn't think anybody would look at me like that, especially where I was at that time. I'm like, I just had lost everything that I loved and cared about. I was pretty mad, I'm not gonna lie. And for a man that I did not know to accept me like that, especially after sharing my whole story with a stranger, changed my whole perspective. I'm like, if one man, even just one man in this place can be like that, there's gotta be something more to this. So I just invested my time. And after that point, I fell in love with the building. The men, the way they interacted with each other, it changed everything about the place to me. I enjoyed it. I started calling it home. It just changed my whole perspective. For once I had a place where I felt like I belonged. There was people in the house, not just the men, not just the RA, but the staff as a whole. They show you respect. They treat you like a man. They don't treat you like a child. They don't show you any kind of, like you're a horrible person or you're like a vagrant. They treat you like you're a man, that you mean something. And that is a big deal to me as well. It showed me that even in my lowest, I can still be accepted by people. And that provided a lot of safety for me too, so that I could just deal with what I needed to deal with that was going on in my life and not have to worry about all those little things that you worry about when you're homeless. Between Jay and the conversations with Brian and just being able to sit and read the word if I wanted to, or pray if I wanted to, I really started to get back on my feet spiritually. And that had a lot to do with the change. The other part is that with all of my security, all of my safeguards down, and just being able to deal with my emotions for once and not having to worry about all those other things, I could focus on myself. And that was something I hadn't done in years. To be able to really sit and be like, wow, dude, you messed up. Like, there's a lot of stuff in your life. Forgiveness you need to ask for, people you need to forgive for the wrong that's done to you, and just things that you have piled and piled and piled and not even looked at. You just run from them. Me and God really started working on myself, and he really started softening my heart towards people, and I started building relationships with men and working again in the kitchen. It just kind of gave me a little bit of something to be proud of, kind of put my heart into. And between that, the encouragement of staff, and like I said, really building those relationships with the men, God really started to work on me in a real way. And eventually it led to a point to where I was just like, I'm done being the old person. If I expect to be any different, this is my opportunity. I don't want to do this anymore. And it was one of my big prayers in the very beginning is I'm like, I want freedom from all of it, from the bad friends, the bad decisions, all of the regret, the pain. I want to be done, finally done. And I was willing to commit whatever I had to do that. And at the time it was simple. It was just follow the mission rules. Don't go nowhere for 60 days. Don't look for work. Just focus on working and spend your time in the Word and go through that and see where it takes you. And through that, God really blessed my obedience. And he just taught me a lot. I started really getting involved in different ministries, and I got involved with a couple of different groups and going to Celebrate Recovery. And he just started working on me in so many different ways, in so many different aspects of my life all at once. I started making a lot of ground. Started to forgive people for things that I never thought I would forgive them for. And eventually it just led to me being where I am now, still in the pursuit that God's the reason my life is different. He gave me the opportunity. If he wouldn't have softened me to the mission 2 years previously, who's to say I would have ever walked in the doors when I was faced with that decision? I don't think I would have. So over that period of time, maybe it was his destiny that I ended up there. And through that, I came to where I am now.